Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to call the meeting of the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners to order. We will call on Commissioner Schaefer for our prayer, and then we'll call on Commissioner Serino to lead us in the pledge.
I would like to share with you all this evening a thought that I ran across in a magazine recently. I'd ask you to bow your heads. On this minuscule speck of galactic dust called Earth, life abounds, thrives, laughs, and sings. Though battered by brutal and different winds and wave upon merciless wave, it rises yet again, defying both fate and foe with the cry, I am. And when the noise of war and wailing all but drowns out prayers for peace and calls for vengeance echo throughout the land, in some remote corner of the globe, a newborn baby sleeps in unspoken truth, I am. Look to the heavens and see, pierce the depths of the oceans and know. Listen to a billion miracles proclaim the divine name, I am. Across infinite universes, or perhaps none but ours, frolic in the precious eternal now, knowing you have the awesome power to see and hear and feel and respond, I am. And I leave you with the thought to ask yourselves, who is your I am? Amen.
Hey, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer. Here. Commissioner Black. Here. Commissioner Jordan. Here. Commissioner P. Here. Commissioner Cook. Here. Commissioner Jernigan. Here. Commissioner Farley.
Here.
Commissioner Phillips.
Here.
Commissioner Sandlin. Here. Commissioner Turner. Here. Commissioner Allen. Commissioner Stevens.
Here.
Commissioner Jordan. Here. Commissioner Baum. Here. Commissioner Coggin. Commissioner Young, Commissioner Phillips, Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Ely, Commissioner Gooch, Commissioner Serino. 20 present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. You have before you a copy of the minutes of the last commission meeting. Commissioner Sandlin.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Second. Commissioner Tiffany Phillips. Anyone have any corrections or additions? If not, then all of you in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. We have first on our agenda a resolution of sympathy for one of our school board members, Ms. Helen Blankenship, and we're going to call on Commissioner P. to present that resolution.
I know the Blankenship family are here. If you'd like to, you're welcome to come stand up front if you'd like. While they're doing that, before I start reading, one thing I want to make very plain is Helen grew up in my neighborhood. She's a neighbor and a friend. I've worked with her over the years in a lot of different ways, and you'll read some of those from this resolution or hear some of those. She's also worked in our fire department out there. I see a lot of firemen out here today. The resolution of sympathy, whereas it was with great sadness that the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners learned of the death of Helen Blankenship, a member of the Rutherford County School Board and friend of many. And whereas Ms. Blankenship is survived by her mother, Nell Blankenship, and brother, Donald Blankenship. Whereas Ms. Blankenship was a native and a lifelong resident of Halls Hill Pike, where she was raised on a family farm, and she loved taking care of her sheep. And whereas she attended Kittrell Elementary, graduated from Oakland High School, and from MTSU with bachelor's and master's degrees. Whereas Ms. Blankenship was a member of the Lascassas Methodist Church, was a substitute teacher with Murfreesboro City, Rutherford County, and Cannon County school systems, and worked in the family dairy business. And whereas she was involved in the International Folk Festival, Camp Woodley in Warren County, the American Kennel Association, and Tennessee Young Farmers and Ranchers. Whereas we know that her passing has caused great sadness to her family and friends, now therefore be it resolved that the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners at its regular session on this 13th day of March 2014 does hereby extend sincere sympathy to the family of Ms. Blankenship, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution of sympathy be forwarded to the family of Ms. Blankenship by the clerk of this legislative body. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Second, Commissioner Jernigan, Jordan, Black, and others. All of you in favor of that, then please say aye. Aye. Thank you very much, and we appreciate so much her service to our county, Ms. Blankenship and Donald. She did, and she has been an asset, and we will miss her immensely. Okay, we have other resolutions of recognition tonight, and the first resolution will be presented by Mr. Jeff Jordan on behalf of Riverdale wrestler Sean Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners. If the family of Sean Kennedy would come on up, be appreciated. While they're coming up, let me tell you two pieces of information. First of all, last year we honored another Riverdale wrestler, Scotty Boykin, for his state championship. And if you recall, his brother, Nicky, came up here with him. And Nicky was a wrestler and a football player at Christiana. Nicky's gone on to Riverdale High School now, and as a freshman, finished third in his first year. So, and the man standing behind me here, Mr. Bill Kennedy, if Nicky should happen to win a state championship at any time, that will be the 7th wrestler from Rutherford County that has won a state championship that Mr. Kennedy has been the coach at one time or another. Also, one of the coaches at Riverdale High School is Mr. Baird. Another is SRO officer Sean Jones. Sean is on SWAT team duty tonight. I hope he doesn't have to come to this building. But at any rate, I was told, and many of you, and I know we have police officers here and deputies and whatnot, and the sheriff is here and knows that when you're on SWAT duty, your phone is off and you are unable to respond to anything except a SWAT duty call. So Officer Jones is not with us, but the rest of the family and coaches are here. And the resolution of recognition, Riverdale High School, Sean Kennedy, 170-pound wrestling class AAA state champion. Whereas congratulations goes to junior Riverdale High wrestler Sean Kennedy for his undefeated 41-0 2013-14 state championship season in the 170-pound class AAA wrestling tournament held in Williamson County in February 2014. And whereas Sean gave up only 5 points in the entire tournament in wins over wrestlers, and these schools are there every year with quality people: Cumberland County, Hendersonville, Beach, Bradley Central, Brentwood, and Cleveland. And whereas the final victory for the championship was a come-from-behind 4-3 win over Cleveland's Josh Hamilton. And whereas congratulations also go to Sean's coaches, Jason Baird, Riverdale SRO Sean Jones, Officer Bill Kennedy, and to Riverdale Principal Tom Nolan. And whereas we commend Sean for his dedication and commitment, which made this championship possible, and for bringing this fine publicity to our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that we extend this resolution of recognition to Riverdale High School student Sean Kennedy for his achievement. Resolved this 13th day of March 2014. Mr. Mayor, I proudly move for adoption.
Second by Commissioner P. and Schaefer and others. All of you then in favor of this, please say aye. Aye. Congratulations. Next, we'd like to call on Commissioner Sandlin, and this, excuse me, I went a little bit too fast there, Commissioner Sandlin. Second resolution is we're going to let Commissioner Jeff Jordan stay up here again, and this is on behalf of the Rutherford County School Board.
Well, since the SWAT team hasn't arrived, let's go on with our recognition and a well-deserved one. I'd like for members of the Rutherford County School Board and the director, if he wishes to come up with him, to come forward, if you would, please. Ms. Blankenship is going to join us up here for obvious reasons. Good to see all of you this evening. The resolution of recognition for the Rutherford County School Board. Whereas the Rutherford County School Board recently received 2 major awards. The first was the Board of Distinction Award from the Tennessee School Board Association. They've now won this award for the 3rd time. It's a 2-year term, so it runs out in 2016, where no doubt they will win it again. The requirements and evaluation are extensive. And whereas the second award was received by the Rutherford County School Board in November of 2013, when they were honored as the Tennessee School Board of the Year, the award reflects the school board's mission statement to empower today's students to grasp tomorrow's opportunities. The major parts of this honor recognize the board's effort to establish and review school board policies, establish successful 5-year plan and a building program, for consistently improving long-term student achievement and performance, and for constantly working in other important areas such as financial planning, school design, which they won an award for, by the way, long-term goals, school safety and security, and for promoting quality education from preschool through grade 12. And whereas Rutherford County Schools was also named as one of the 11 exemplary school districts in Tennessee, 10 schools were named as reward schools. McFadden was honored as a Blue Ribbon School. Rutherford County Schools were also recognized as having achieved a 91.7 graduation rate for reaching students whose primary language is not English, and for achieving system-wide accreditation from the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. Whereas, in addition, all 7 board members are working on additional training. Helen Blankenship, at the time of her death, David Nipper, Gary Eakes, and Coy Young are currently at level 1 boardmanship. Aaron Holliday has just received level 2, and Chairman Terry Hodge and Vice Chair Wayne Blair are at level 5. That's the highest achievement level awarded by the Tennessee School Board Association. In addition, during the 2013 Fall District meeting, Chairman Terry Hodge received the National School Board Association Distinguished Service Award. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that we extend this resolution of recognition to our Rutherford County School Board for their dedication and commitment to our youth and our community as a whole, and their hard work to maintain the standards required to obtain these 2 major awards and recognition. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Cook, Jordan, and many others, all of us. All of you in favor of that, then please say aye. Aye. Very good. Thank you.
I wanted to say that Mr. Hodge sends his regrets tonight. It was absolutely impossible for him to be here. He couldn't do it this evening. No way, but Vice Chairman Wayne Blair is here. I think he has a comment or two. Mr. Blair.
Thank you, Commissioner Jordan. I would like to take the opportunity to thank this commission. This recognition from our funding body is, I get in trouble saying this sometimes, so way cool. And we appreciate the cooperation, the collaboration, and especially the funding. Thank you for the funding. So if I may, I would like to recognize board members that are here. First off, I'll start off with our Director of Schools, which you all know, Mr. Don Odom, Mr. Gary Eakes, Mr. Corey Young, Mr. Aaron Holliday, Mr. David Nipper, and standing in for Helen Blankenship, we asked Ms. Nail to come up and share this honor with us. And Ms. Nail, we grieve with you, and you'll be in our prayers for a long time. And we were so appreciative of Helen's advocacy for education, and she loved this county community. And
That was her greatest story.
yes, ma'am. And we will miss her, but we're so happy to be with you tonight. So again, thank you, everybody.
Now we'll recognize Commissioner Sandlin to recognize Brandon and Catherine Witt, winners of the Young Farmers and Ranchers Achievement Award.
John L. and Melissa, if y'all would come up too, please. While they are coming up, I got to tell just a little bit of story first before I get into the resolution. Back in '90, when I was running for county commission, I knocked on this log cabin door, and Mr. Beatty came to the door. Not this Mr. Beatty, but his dad. And we talked there for just a few minutes, and this man was so proud of his family and his farm and his community. And what a wonderful man. What a wonderful man. My father died young, and I know he's in heaven right now looking at y'all and smiling of what a wonderful job y'all have done with the family farm and what you've done for this community, and I wanted to mention that to you publicly and in front of you. But one fella did tell me after I got elected, though, there, that I may be the county commissioner, but the mayor of Blackman was John L. Beatty. So I've always remembered that. I've always remembered that, and it's so true. But this family has been a pillar of this community as well as Blackman for life, basically. But Catherine wasn't able to make it tonight. On my sheet here, you know, it says that she's expecting in March, which is any day, and so she's not feeling exactly up to par. So this is number 4. And I understand why number 4, when you're farming this many acres, you need some help. So that's fine. We've got a great school, Browns Chapel, right down the road there.
I'd like to thank McFadden for the education that they're offering.
Great, great. Let me read you this recognition. Whereas Brandon and Catherine Witt were recently winners of the Young Farmers and Ranchers Achievement Award during the 95th annual meeting of the American Farm Bureau Federation and the Tennessee Young Farmers and Ranchers. And whereas the Achievement Award recognizes young farmers and ranchers who have excelled in their farming and ranching operations and exhibited superior leadership and abilities. Participants are evaluated on a commendation of their agriculture operations, growth, and financial progress. Farm Bureau leadership and leadership outside of Farm Bureau. And for winning this award, Brandon and Catherine received a 2014 GMC 4-door, 4-wheel drive, blue, really nice pickup truck. I told Brandon, I said, if he leaves the keys in it, he can find it in my house just right around the corner anytime. Whereas the Witts farm over 1,900 acres in the surrounding Blackman and Murfreesboro area of the Rutherford County in an owner partnership operation within Beatty Farms. Their major crops are soybeans, wheat, corn, milo, and of course strawberries, if you hadn't noticed already, across from the out on the avenues out there. Their market, over 800 head of hogs a year, mostly through retail outlets, consisting of 4,000 pounds of meat monthly by farm retail restaurants and farm markets, and of course Beatty Farm right out there. They can get it there, or Farrah Brothers, or a number of different places. Whereas both Brandon and Catherine have been very active in the Young Farmers and Ranchers program, as well as for the Rutherford County Farm Bureau and community. Brandon has served as the state YF&R community chairman, a member of the TFBF Board of Directors, American Farm Bureau Partnering Ag Leadership participant, and held numerous county YF&R leadership positions. Catherine is active in a numerous YF&R committees, as well as several community organizations. Both are very active within the community, serving within the Blackman United Methodist Church and the Blackman Community Club. Brandon shares their love for agriculture through music in his band, Pork and Beans, playing and singing all over the country and farm conferences and appearances on the Today Show and the RFD TV. The Witts have 3 children, with number 4 due now. We have March, but it's right here. Now, therefore, it be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners, we extend the resolution of recognition to Brandon and Catherine Witt for winning the Young Farmers and Ranchers Achievement Award and for bringing this fine publicity to our county, and to express a sincere gratitude for all that they have done for our community as a whole. Resolved this 13th day of March, 2014. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Commissioner Jordan, second. All of you in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, a job well done there. Next, we're going to call on Commissioner Sereno and have a resolution of recognition of American Red Cross Month.
I'd like to invite Mike Cowles and volunteer from chapter Red Cross come up, please. While they come up, when talking about Red Cross, I'm so delighted to serve as a member of the board of the Red Cross. When I travel to visit my homeland, native countries, Laos, I saw the flag of Red Cross in Thailand and Laos, and so, make me happy to serve. These are the volunteers and also the Mike Cowles, director of the chapter of Red Cross at the Murfreesboro, Rutherford County. Today I will read the resolution of recognition of American Red Cross Month 2014. Whereas March month is Red Cross Month, a special time to recognize our everyday hero. Those who help indeed and neighbor for whenever they need. Whereas American Red Cross heroes on the front line every day, they volunteer the time, give blood, take life-saving courses, and also provide financial donation to help those in need. Whereas we would like to remember our hero here in Rutherford County in Tennessee, to those people in help and when in need. They work so hard and tirelessly to help in people with disaster and someone in need, life-saving blood, the comfort, and also helping hand to provide around the clock support member of the military veterans and member of the family, and also teach them in life-saving CPR, aquatic and safety and first aid. Whereas the Red Cross in the county and around the world, the Red Cross also responsible to hurricane, tornadoes, flood, and wildfires, and the tragedy in the marathon in the Boston Marathon, and also the Typhoon Haiyan, and also in the Philippines. And whereas an injured service member and also help in the hospital far away from home, the American Red Cross also offered the comfort. When a hospital patient needs blood, American Red Cross also donors always help. when a lifeguard saved a person drowned on the child, and also someone step up and help in the heart attack victim, the American Red Cross was also there. Whereas we dedicate the month of March to be the American Red Cross month, American Red Cross, we prevent and alleviate the suffering faced on the emergency. Our community depends on the American Red Cross when really relies on the donation of time, money, and blood to fulfill its humanitarian mission. And whereas the Rutherford County laid up bread this week to recognize the American Red Cross. Now whatever is to resolve the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners to extend the resolution to amend the Red Cross March month, being the American Red Cross month in Rutherford County, Tennessee. And we encourage all Americans to support the organization and its noble humanitarian mission, result the 13th of March 2014. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Second, Commissioner Farley and Mr. McAdoo. All of you in favor of this, then please say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Mr. Mike Carr would like to, the director of the chapter, would like to say quite a few words.
Chantho's making me do this, so I would like to thank these great volunteers behind us, because we couldn't work and do the things that we do without volunteers. And so everybody in this room that does volunteer, whether it's with the Red Cross, the Boy Scouts, or any organization, thank you for what you do. Thank you for the men and the women in the back of the room for what you do. It is an honor to be a part of Rutherford County, to reside here, and to serve its citizens. Thank you.
Okay, it's now 6:30 and a little bit past, so we have to now go down to our agenda item on our public hearing. We have 3 of those tonight, and our first request is the rezoning request number 14-A003, and Lynn Davis on behalf of various property owners that are located at 3295, 3307, 3371, and 3389 Franklin Road. The existing zoning there is residential medium density, and the proposed zoning is office professional, and the total size of that site is approximately 7 acres. So, Mr. Demasi, you may elaborate further.
Yes, Mayor Burgess, thank you, and good evening, Mayor, members of the Commission. As you stated, these properties are located along Franklin Road. They're located on the south side to the west of Camden Court. Most of these properties appear to have been created in the late 80s or early 90s, and right-of-way was purchased from a majority of these properties when Franklin Road was widened several years ago. Since 2002, there's been a number of properties in this area that have been rezoned. You can see a list there in your agenda materials. There's been about 6 or 7 of them. These properties were all zoned for office-type uses. When we adopted the new zoning ordinance and map effective at the 1st of last year, all these properties were zoned for office professional due to their similar nature of their uses. The applicant came to staff prior to making application for this rezoning about one of the properties, and staff asked at that time if they would just ask some of the others in that area if they were interested to go with the rezoning as well. They did, and 3 other property owners did ask to be included with the application. We're not aware of any development plans for the properties in question. There's a possibility that they would be developed individually, but staff would expect at some point that maybe they might be combined into a larger parcel and to have a larger use possibly, again, just for what's allowed in the office professional zone. Since there aren't any development plans, there's no concept plan that's been included in your agenda material. There were a few people that did speak at the Planning Commission Their concerns mainly were about the drainage in the area, and there's some floodplain issues on the property. Of course, we told them that that's something that whenever we do see a development plan, it's something we take very seriously and will evaluate when we see a development plan. There was also some discussion also about possibly looking at just rezoning a use at a time or a property at a time as opposed to all of them at once. From a planning standpoint, I recommended to the Planning Commission that it makes more sense to do them all at once rather than piecemealing it in. So after discussion, ultimately they did recommend approval by unanimous vote, 10-4 and 0 against. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, do you have any questions for Mr. Demosi? Okay, then thank you. And with that being said, we will open this request up. The public hearing will now be declared open. If there are those of you that wish to speak for or against this request, it's your opportunity to come forward and tell us what you wish to say and give us your name and address, and you will be able to share your thoughts with us. Is there anyone that wishes to come forward, speak at this public hearing? All right, then I don't see anyone rising to come forward, so we're going to declare the public hearing closed. And do we have a motion? Commissioner Farley.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the request along with staff comments on this proposal.
All right, do we have a second? Second, Commissioner Turner. Now, is there any other discussion or questions or deliberation? There being none, all of you in favor of this then, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you very much. The next request is on behalf of Mr. Kevin Lee, and this location is at 5110 Florence Road, rezoning request 14-A004. The existing zoning, again, is residential medium density. The proposed zoning is institutional, and the size of the site is approximately 129 acres with 113 acres requested for rezoning. Mr. Demosi.
Yes, Mayor Burgess, thank you. This property is located along the east side of Florence Road, just to the north of the intersection of Florence Road and Northwest Broad Street. The applicant's interested in purchasing the property and establishing a residential treatment facility for persons in recovery from an addiction to use of substances or other types of addiction. The applicant has provided a very detailed description in their agenda packets. They're also present, and they are going to make a presentation here in just a moment, so I won't go into too many details with what they are proposing. There is a concept plan in your agenda materials that does show the administration building as well as where they're proposing to put the residential units as well. There was a neighborhood meeting that was held on this rezoning prior to the Planning Commission meeting. That meeting was held on January 21st at the Roselawn Cemetery Chapel. Meeting was very well attended. Lots of people had questions, and there was a lot of good dialogue back and forth between the applicants and the people who lived out in that area. One thing that the applicant is aware of, but I want to make sure that the Commission is aware of as well, that even if this rezoning is approved, the application for the use he's proposing would still have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals for what's called a special exception. It's essentially a conditional use permit, just under a different name. Again, applicant is aware of that, and they've actually made application pending approval of this tonight. If it's not approved, then obviously the application will not go forward to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Again, the applicant did make a very good, thorough presentation on this proposal. He will do so shortly. From a staff standpoint, we're comfortable with the request. We think this is a good location for this type of use. Ultimately, after discussion, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of this by unanimous vote. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Did anyone have any questions for Mr. Demosi? Okay, then thank you. With that being said, we will declare the public hearing open for request number 14A004. If there's anyone wishing to speak for or against this request, please come forward and make your comments known. And we have one gentleman coming forward, Mr. Matt Murphy.
Mayor Burgess and members of the County Commission, I'm Matt Murphy of the law firm of Murphy & Murphy, PLLC. We represent the applicant, Kevin Lee, and his company, AT Projects, LC. Kevin is a native of Rutherford County. He attended MTSU, and I personally have worked with him through the last couple of years on a project that he built on Thompson Lane, and that project is the Trust Point Hospital, which is an absolutely beautiful building, and I know a lot of people that are friends of mine have been patients there. It's a rehab hospital, and it's brought something to Rutherford County that we did not have, and that is a rehabilitation hospital, and it's been a very, very big success. And not only did Kevin get approval for a certificate of need here, but he also arranged financing with National Health, another Rutherford County business. He is the applicant tonight along with his company, and he will be presenting shortly PowerPoints about his project. But I'll tell you a couple of things in general, and then I'll tell you about the due diligence we've done in terms of contacting the neighbors and informing them about this project. He has under contract 129 acres, and after talking with Mr. DeMasi, the Planning Commission, and some of the neighbors, we elected to have the frontage of that property remain residential, and the theory being there's some houses across the street, so there will be a residential strip along Florence Road across from the existing houses. The main development of the property and what we're requesting to be rezoned is 129 acres. The buildings that, and he's going to show you where he's going to place buildings, but they will be generally along the back of the property along the river. And as we say, this is a facility to treat people with substance abuse and addiction, but they do not take patients that are not clean. They only take patients who've gone through already medical treatment and straighten themselves out and desire to come to the facility. They don't take patients that have been sentenced by a court to go there. They only take patients who are willing to come there and undergo treatment, and the theory is that they will be in a pastoral setting. They'll have gardening, they'll have horseback riding, they'll have therapy, and they will live on the facility. So the theory is that they will have an opportunity, once they are dry, to look forward and get ready to remain that way the rest of their lives. The facility he plans will, as I say, be along the woodsy area in the back and probably will not even be visible from Florence Road. And he anticipates initially they'll have about 60 patients, and there'll be a living facility for women, there'll be a facility for men, and then there'll be recreational areas and areas where the patients go for therapy. The property is bordered on the front by Florence Road. On the back is the Stones River. On the, what I would call the Broad Street side, is Roselawn Cemetery. And the other property owner is the attorney Johnny Mitchell, who after our public and neighborhood meeting wrote a letter in favor of the project. We had a meeting with homeowners on January 21st at the chapel at Roselawn Cemetery. And of course, due to the nature of the project, there were lots and lots of questions about the patients that would go there. But I would say that once the meeting was over, generally the neighbors were very supportive of the project, and we invited everybody in the immediate vicinity to come to the meeting. After the meeting, we wrote a letter to the neighbors that attended the meeting saying if they had further concerns or questions to contact us, and the main reaction we have since we sent the letters have been the neighbors are generally in favor of it. A lot of them said, thank goodness there are going to be 60 there instead of 300 houses. We did get very positive feedback, and at this time, I would like Kevin Lee to come forward and present his plan for the property, and then we'll be available to answer questions after his presentation.
Mayor Burgess, members of the Board of Commission, thank you for considering our request. I'm going to go through a PowerPoint, as Matt said, to describe this project. This is a request for a change from residential to institutional zoning. The project is, as Matt indicated, for addiction treatment. It is a facility where people come and reside for 30 days or maybe several months to live clean and live healthy, learn to live healthy. People are enrolled in the facility voluntarily. There are no court commitments. The residents come there and desire to live clean. They want to live healthy. We teach them to live healthy. Are you operating remote? Who's doing it? Thank you, sir. I want to talk about the activities in the facility. The residents receive daily therapies with a licensed clinical staff. They're receiving these clinical therapies to provide them healthy, if you will, advice. They're sorting through a lot of issues as they have become sober or whatever their addiction problem has been. And so they have a licensed team of people who have experience in dealing with these issues, working with them. The facility will be licensed by the Tennessee Department of Mental Health, and will have accreditation by the Commission on Accreditation for Rehabilitation Facilities, and that's the standard in this service. Thank you. The therapies and activities on a daily basis are, as mentioned, clinical therapies, group therapy sessions, 12-step programs and meetings. We have individual therapy sessions for some folks, a lot of exercise, biking, yoga, equine therapy. We'll have horses. If you drive by, we have this project, you drive by, you'll think it's a horse farm. We'll have a large garden area with organic farming. And nutritional counseling is critical. Most of our folks who've had a problem with substance abuse have not used good nutritional habits, if you will. Family therapy sessions are important, so on many weekends we'll have families come in and visit with those folks who are staying with us. The facility's mission is to assist each client we have in supporting his or her recovery from addictive behaviors and to stay healthy. All right, there's a need for this type facility. In Tennessee, if you think of a few places, there's one such addiction treatment center in Memphis. There's one in Nashville that's similar. There are some others in between Nashville and Memphis that we know of. There are various small outpatient operations here in Murfreesboro, as a matter of fact. You might think of Cumberland Heights. It's similar in some ways to what we'll have. It's in Nashville. The need is really big. 9.5% of our United States population needs some form of addiction treatment. The problem is only about 10% of those folks ever get any treatment or seek help. It's phenomenal. Middle Tennessee and Rutherford County are very underserved. At any one time, I believe we would need, we have about 25,000 people, residents of Rutherford County, who need this kind of help. So it would be a great addition to the quality of life of our citizens. We don't like people having to travel away, and when they do, they generally, well, they don't do it. They don't get help. So there's an opportunity for this significant new benefit for our county, and it's an opportunity that is, well, the opportunity to help people close to home means more people are going to get help. Plus, we can have a great clinical staff on our campus, people who work with the residents, then can see them again on an outpatient basis, and that's very helpful too. Now, we want to win the photo award. A big big part of our outreach effort in informing people about what we have is through the internet. People do website searches, as you know. And we also want to have a nice campus because when people get there, we want them to like it. It's got to be nice, so it's got to be aesthetically pleasing. We'll maintain the rural character, the setting. We want it to be very tranquil, I like to say. We want people to be comfortable there. It's a key component of the whole program that when people get there, they feel like they've kind of gone away. So if you go out on this land, as Matt mentioned, it's 129 acres. We're asking for rezoning of about 113. There's 16 acres along Florence Road that we're asking to leave as residential. Unless you're really, really tall, maybe 20 feet tall, you would not see our buildings that we propose to build. There's a barn there that is 50 or 60 years old that we'll reskin and use it as it's a nice horse barn in terms of its foundation. Okay. So minimal visibility from the road. The buildings will be tucked back into the rolling landscape. I'm going to show you a schematic in a moment. I believe you'll be able to see what we're hoping to do. The goal is, by the way, we were asking the neighborhood meeting, you're going to have a sign. No, we won't. We'll have the address out at the road. I don't think we're going to have a sign saying this is what it is. People will drive to that address. And the reason for that is we want our residents to be comfortable there. We don't want other people who we really don't want to know that this is this type center to be coming onto our property. So we'll have provisions for the privacy and security of our residents, and we want to be a good neighbor, so we'll keep the place looking attractive, as I've already mentioned. There's see where we are in the PowerPoint. That schematic, I think you've probably got in your package of stuff, right, Doug? If you can see, I'm going to try to use the PowerPoint now a little bit. I mean the pointer here. Florence Road is shown on the left side of this drawing. You can see my red dot. There you go. Thank you. Very good. Better than I am. That's Florence Road. Roselawn Cemetery is in this area. There's another wooded tract of land over here. The Stones River is here, and then there's large farmland on the other side of the Stones River. And then Mr. Mitchell's land is over here, as Matt Murphy described. There are residents across the street, and this is U.S. Highway 41, Northwest Broad Street as we know it here. So the driveway proposed would be right here and run back here to an administrative office building. And before you get there, as you can see, the barn, and we'll have a gate here and a security building right there or thereabouts. So the residences are in these buildings back here that are drawn, and there's an activities building and administrative offices around those buildings. Our proposal would be to start with facilities for up to 60 residents at a time. Hopefully that will be all we need, but we would want to have provision later on to add some beds if we get to capacity, as we probably will. So that's the schematic of the land and what we propose to build conceptually. So as I've mentioned, okay, there's a picture of the barn as it is. We'll polish it up. It'll look really pretty. Go to the next one. And that's the proposed area of the drive that I just showed you there. And again, if you're standing on Florence Road, you would see the barn in that security building, but I don't think you'd be able to see even the top of the administration building. So it's private. That's the point of that. Okay. And that's just a picture of what a fence that we would propose would look like, and as I've indicated, to be horse pastures at the property along Florence Road and going on back. So we're only requesting rezoning of the 113 acres, give or take an acre. 16 acres on Florence Road would remain residential. Okay. So we have an opportunity to help a lot of people. It's a needed service. We'd like to have it here in the county. We've had a lot of people indicate support for it. I personally have had it touch my family. A year ago, I lost an uncle. He died of overdose. He was a military veteran, and finally the pain medications he was taking caused him to overdose. It would have helped him to have this type facility. So I'm requesting your approval to make this change from residential zoning to institutional. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Mr. Lee. Are there other people that wish to speak for or against this request? If so, this is your opportunity. Well, I don't see anyone else that's rising to come forward to speak, so do we have a motion? We declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner Jordan.
I have a question for Mr. DeMasi. At the neighborhood meeting, we talked about the opportunity to put a maximum number of patients. Did that get included, or do we have a maximum number?
Well, at this point, since it's just a rezoning of the property, you're not able to put any conditions on it yet. Now, at the Board of Zoning Appeals, they will have that ability to do that.
Well, I've had nothing but positive opinions. I live right across the river. I'm first or second closest neighbor. But everybody's in favor of this out there, and with that, I'll make a motion to approve contingent upon all staff comments.
Second, Commissioner Phillips and others. Any other questions or discussion? All of you then in favor of this, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you very much. Now the next request we have is on behalf of our planning staff, rezoning request 14-A005. And there are various properties along Spantown Road and Newcastle Road, and the proposed zoning is residential medium density. It's approximately 305 acres, and about 119 acres are requested for rezoning. So, Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, Mayor Burgess, thank you. And I'll begin this short presentation by just saying that this is an unusual request that we have before you tonight. Our current zoning ordinance and map became effective, as you all know, on January 1st of 2013. When we created the zoning map, we used what we thought was the current boundary line between Williamson County and Rutherford County. A recent inquiry kind of brought that into question. Essentially what happened, a piece of property along Newcastle Road, a gentleman was looking to purchase the property and do what would basically would be a major home-based business, would require Board of Zoning Appeal approval. And he was wondering what process he needed to do. Well, we looked at our maps and said, well, you're in Williamson County. Well, they called Williamson County, and they said, no, you're in Rutherford County. So we went back and forth with Rutherford County officials, Williamson County officials. As it turns out, yes, that is actually within Rutherford County. So after looking at the zoning map, we knew we had to make a change to bring the zoning in that area in conformance with our zoning regulations and our zoning map. So essentially what we did was just take the existing zoning out in that area, which is RM, residential medium density, which is the new R15, and just extend it to those properties that turn out are in Rutherford County and not Williamson County. This doesn't affect any development or anything that's going on. These properties are already paying taxes in Rutherford County. Nothing will change in that regard. This is simply a housekeeping matter that we're bringing before you tonight, which is why it's a planning staff initiated application. Again, it is unusual. We don't see these too often, but with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. We did send notices out to the landowners that were affected prior to ever bringing this to the Planning Commission. I did hear from a number of them. When I explained what was going on, they were all fine. Nobody had any issues. I actually talked with one right before the meeting tonight, as a matter of fact. So, again, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. DeMasi? Okay, then we'll declare the public hearing open for this request to rezone approximately 119 acres into Rutherford County, you might say. Various properties along Spantown Road and Newcastle Road. Public hearing is open. Does anyone wish to speak for or against this request? Okay, there's no one wishing to speak. The public hearing is closed. Do we have a motion? Commissioner Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve this proposal.
Second, Commissioner Sandlin. Anyone have any questions? Okay, all of you in favor of this then, please say aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you very much. Before I go to the next agenda item, this is a little unusual, but we have just found a set of keys here. I believe it was found in our ladies' restroom. So if some of you have lost this, come over here to this side of the building, and Ms. Nolan will take care of returning these to you. I'm sure you'll be looking for them at some point soon. Okay, we're ready then to move back to our other agenda items. And next on the agenda is public comments. And our first person that wishes to speak is Mr. Donald Todd. And come forward and give us your name and address and Remind each of you have 3 minutes to say what you'd like to say.
My name is Donald Todd, and I live at 633 Buck Lane. Victory over coercive annexation is imminent. There are two sets of bills that have been introduced in both houses of the Tennessee legislature, both of which would put a stop to cities implementing coercive annexation of property owned by suburban landowners in Tennessee. In the vicinity of Knoxville, Murfreesboro, and elsewhere, many suburban property owners for several years have been urging the Tennessee legislators to adopt certain bills like SB 2464 and SB 0869 to stop this forced annexation by cities. Citizens of this nation have a right to choose whether to live in a city or in a suburban area. Those who prefer to live in a suburban territory made this choice in order to be exempt from paying city taxes and also to avoid being confined by stringent city regulations. For the most part, these suburban property owners have all the services necessary for comfortable living. The previously mentioned bills will stop this unnecessary annexation, and ultimately they will succeed in protecting the citizens' constitutional property rights. Furthermore, until 1998, the people of Tennessee could rely on a law which gave us the right of trial by jury and which was successful in eliminating coercive annexation. But apparently, through financial arm-twisting pressure, Metro's TML, Tennessee Municipal League, forced the legislature to repeal this law in 1998, thereby encouraging cities to annex suburban property. After this happened, citizens have worked hard to restore the right of trial by jury and to introduce bills like SB 2464 and SB 0869. These bills would stop forced annexation, and their adoption by the Tennessee Senate is imminent. In order to maintain its socialistic policy of eliminating our suburban property owners' right of trial by jury, Metro's TML in 2011 threatened a local legislator not to support HB 1371 that would restore the right of trial by jury. Otherwise, if the legislator continued to support HB 1371, TML warned that future federal grants would be withheld from Tennessee. My question is, in order for the states to receive federal grants, are we citizens expected to give away our rights of self-rule? 1,000 times no. Thank you.
Next, Phil Griffin.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Phil Griffin, 424 Elena Lane. I want to first thank you for allowing me to stand before you this evening and address you on a very important matter that will affect the future of our county. What I want to address and urge you to do is accept the SAFER grant that Fire Chief Larry Farley has applied for and that we have been granted. As you know, this grant will provide compensation for full-time firemen. In our county, this is long overdue, and I am thrilled to see this opportunity to improve our public safety division. Currently, our citizens in the areas outside of the city of Murfreesboro are, for the most part, unprotected during the day as our brave volunteers, as they are now, are at work providing for their own families. And ladies and gentlemen, we can right this wrong by allowing those members to make their career firefighting. Let's let them make that their career so they can do what they love and that they're effectively doing now. I know many of you have expressed a concern about the cost, and I'm right there with you, and I appreciate sincerely you being concerned about the cost, as that's very important. But let me please also say that there is a cost involved in not accepting this. The cost involved from the lack of economic development that we're going to see if we don't get our public safety righted the way it needs to be. So regarding a plan that's been mentioned several times to fund this department, I would submit to you that I have discussed this grant and also paying for it with Chief Farley, and I know he is committed to making sure this is a success. So I'd urge you, meet with him. You're the stakeholders. Meet with him. Give him an opportunity to work with you, create the plan, and I know he's more than willing to do what's necessary to make sure that it is a success. So in closing, I want to just simply, again, urge you to please accept this grant. Let's make sure we provide the proper infrastructure for our current and for our future taxpayers that we're blessed to have. And also, with the remaining time I have, I want to once again congratulate our school board for their honor tonight. Again, economic development. It's more than public safety, it's also our education. So to all you members out here, thank you. To the Blankenship family, I have a son in the Barfield School, Rutherford County Schools. Miss Blankenship was our representative. I'm a member of the PTO there at Barfield as well. So on behalf of them and on behalf of me, thank you for her service, and you're in our thoughts and prayers. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you. Thank y'all for your service, and please accept the grant.
Mr. Steve Spence.
Good evening. I'm Steve Spence. I live at 7309 Midland Road in Christiana. I'm here tonight to ask you to support the Eagleville Project Phase 1. The future of Eagleville is growth, especially if their sewer system is put in place. Children will come from this growth and only will increase the number of the school. There has been talk about putting this project off. This has been put off before. It's time to put it on again. It would cost more money, and the school would continue to suffer if we put it off. So often we overlook the needs of quieter, less demanding schools, but that doesn't mean make them any less deserving. It's impressive to see the community supporting Eagleville. I appreciate y'all's vote tonight. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our public comments for tonight. Next, we'll call on Commissioner Gooch for elections and confirmations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and fellow commissioners. Steering has several items for your consideration this evening. On your desk, you will find a list of notary candidates, and I would move for their election, Mr. Chair.
And a second from Commissioner Sandlin and others, I'm sure. All of you in favor of that, please say aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you very much.
Second, we need to announce 4 vacancies on the Equalization Board. And finally, to announce a vacancy on the school board to fill the unexpired term of Mrs. Helen Blankenship, which will expire in August 2016. And this is the school board zone that represents County Commission Districts 4, 6, and 7. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gooch. All right, there's no unfinished business. Now, reports by standing committees. There is not a report from the Purchasing Committee, so we're ready for Commissioner Ely to present the request for the Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee.
Item L2A, our general fund budget amendments. Be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the general fund be amended as follows. From the property assessor, increased revenue, communications, $3,000, decreased expenditures for consultants, $3,000. And this is to fund some expenses for reappraisal for the completion of this year. Sheriff's Department, increased revenue from insurance recovery, $6,670. Increased expenditures, motor vehicles, $6,670. Increased revenue from contributions and gifts, $2,074. Increased expenditures for other contracted services, $370. Supplies and materials, $805. Other charges, $850. And other supplies and materials, $49. Increased revenue from contributions and gifts, $2,331. Increased expenditures for veterinary services, $1,331, and animal food and supplies, $1,000. Increased revenue from sale of materials and supplies, $917. Increased expenditures for print, stationery, and forms, $110, office supplies, $570, and other supplies and materials, $237. Increased revenue from sale of recyclable materials, $3,700. Increased expenditures for communications, $3,097, and other supplies and materials, $603. Increased expenditures, overtime pay, $33,170, and the related benefits with $10,000 for office supplies, and an increased revenue to commissary sales, $49,930. Resolved this 13th day of March 2014. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
And a second from someone on the Budget Committee, Commissioner Peete. Any questions? All right, then, please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
18 yes, 2 abstain. Motion passes.
Item L2B, acceptance of 2013 Safer Fire Grant and a related amendment. Whereas Rutherford County has received notification of a grant award from the Federal Emergency Management Agency for the 2013 Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response, or SAFER grant. And whereas the award is in the amount of $1,400,712 and covers the performance period of 4/30/14 through 4/29/16. And whereas the award is for 12 firefighter positions, salary and benefits, with no county match. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and all other required officials of Rutherford County, Tennessee, be and are here authorized to sign the grant award documents with FEMA, a copy of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by references if set forth herein at length verbatim, to accept the 2013 SAFER grant in the amount of $1,400,712, and additionally, that the general fund be amended as follows to reflect the revenues and expenditures of the grant for the remainder of the fiscal year. Increased revenue, other direct federal revenue, $154,725. Increased expenditures, other salaries and wages, $102,650, and the related benefits. Resolved this 13th day of March 2014. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Commissioner Farley, second. Questions or discussion? Commissioner Young.
First of all, this is long overdue. We need paid firefighters in this county. I do have some concerns. I've actually got the grant right here. I've gone through it with a fine-tooth comb. I've written these grants before. But I want to play fair. And one of the concerns I have is that this grant, the way it was written, it says that the first due response area of the county fire department is 80,652 people. That's false. It's not. What they did there was they took the county populations, deduct the 3 major cities, and that's the number we come up with. Amaville, Walter Hill, Lascassas, Kittrell, they're their own standalone departments. When we contract that out, that's theirs. Since we use that population and to get this grant, what I want to see done is an equal playing field for all volunteers. If you volunteer at Lascassas, you should have the same opportunity for one of these 12 positions as these folks that volunteer for the county. Since we use their numbers, we need to play fair. It doesn't need to be hired from within. I want the best, most competent, well-trained staff. But no offense, none of these guys, maybe 1 or 2 is qualified to drive a fire truck at Murfreesboro, Smyrna, and Laverne. And we're going to hire people in rank. We're going to hire captains and lieutenants and drivers. There are certifications that go along with this. Those positions need to be opened up to the outside. If we have somebody that wants to retire from the Laverne Fire Department or Smyrna or Murfreesboro and come in as a captain. Or Commissioner Farley retired from the city of Murfreesboro, and he's now with the state. Randy Garrett retired from the city of Murfreesboro, and he's the deputy chief at the sheriff's department. You get high quality people in those positions and make the county better, and that's what we've got to do. It can't just be from within, because the qualifications aren't there. It's not knocking these guys. These are new guys. If they're the 12 best back there and there's more than 12, that's who needs to be hired. But it's got to be open, and we got to play fair. Since we used the numbers for the entire unincorporated area, each of those firefighters from the unincorporated should be treated just the same as the guys that volunteer for the county. That's my big argument. The other argument I have is how are we going to pay for it later on? We have no plan. I've argued on the fire tax. If we don't win on fire tax, we can pay for it through Sidus tax. But the problem is we split Sidus tax with solid waste. You could have a county solid waste tax. That's another option. If you don't want a fire tax, call it whatever you want. It's the same thing. It's an ad valorem tax to the unincorporated citizens. It wouldn't tax the citizens inside the municipalities. Same concept. We can call it anything we want to. The city of Smyrna needs to pay for their own solid waste convenience center instead of Walter Hill and Lascassas paying for it. That's a fact. We're using Sidus tax to pay for the town of Smyrna's convenience center. That's wrong. That's money taken away from the volunteers. We got some fundamental things we need changed. But I ask you to support this because we do need paid firefighters, but we got to have a plan, Mayor. I've asked you for 4 years for a plan for fire trucks, how we're going to fund it. We just got a tanker that's a garbage truck, and now we're going to get paid people. That's not a plan. We got to start getting some plans together for the long term. That's what I want to see done. This is an opportunity we don't need to let us slip by, and I'll sit down, and that's my case.
Commissioner Black.
Well, I have to agree with Commissioner Young there. I've been studying about this, and I represent 2 of them private contracted fire departments out there, and Walter and Lascassas. They're great. They do a great job. Very proud of them. I'd like to see them maybe get something as well as Kittrell and Amble. I'd like to maybe look at pay per call. I know that's kind of getting away from what we're talking about here, but if we hadn't decided how we're going to pay for this, again, I feel as though we're represented really well out there, and them guys does a great job on the north side as well as the east and the west. I just feel like I'm throwing dirty dishwater in their face on voting for something like this. I think it's going to have a negative effect also out there at Rutherford. It's 12 firefighters. I think they got 90. How they're going to be selected. I'd like to know from the mayor how we plan on paying for this. I'd like you to answer that.
First 2 years we're going to pay for it out of this grant. This grant is just like any other numbers of grants that we get, and we've done this before. If we don't have a way to pay for it, these people know when they're hired that if we don't have a way to pay for it at the end of that 2-year period, we'll have to discontinue it. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't want that to happen. None of us want that to happen. We do have, even now, a bit more Sidus tax that's available that we're not currently using. It's not enough, it appears, to fully fund this. But 2 years from now, as Mr. Young suggested, we'll have a plan. I believe with your help and with the leadership of our finance director and others, there will be a way for this to happen. Our county will continue to grow and thrive, and it's just going to take all of us together making a plan that's workable and doable. So I'm confident we can make that happen with your help.
Pretty close to an answer, but I still didn't get a definite answer. I don't like to vote for nothing without knowing how we're gonna pay for it. And, I see more than likely it's gonna be a property tax increase, and as I said before, we're represented well out on my side of town, and I know Rutherford, that's gonna help over there on the south side. I just don't see that's gonna help us, so I won't be able to support this without a plan on how to pay for it.
Commissioner Sandlin.
Well, I understand it's a grant for 2 years, so I'm in there, and like you said, we've done this stuff before. We already said we're going to start the fire department. We've already done that. I would like to suspend the rules and ask Mr. Farley to come up. One thing that's been skewed here that Commissioner Young did said is I thought we were going to hire within. Right or wrong, I think we've got qualified, educated, certified volunteer firefighters right now in our departments that can fill these positions right now. And that's what I was told, and I'm hoping that these guys have already paid their dues and that they're in line to get these jobs without outside look or outside our county or in another department or whatever. That's what I thought we were doing here. So if that's not, I would like to get that cleared up.
Well, that is what we're going to do. But we're going to open up the captain position and the 2 lieutenant positions to anyone that wishes to apply, because we think we need a broader pool of applicants to fill those positions. Internally, within Rutherford County, there are plenty of firefighters that we will hire for those other positions, the other 9 positions. So yes, we are going to do just what you're suggesting in a transparent, equitable way. There will be job descriptions, there will be requirements, training, certification, and only those that rise to the highest level will be the ones that will be chosen.
Right. Well, by not Commissioner Farley, but his brother Larry Farley, it said we've got those people already that are that qualified that are in the volunteer fire departments now. That's what I'm saying.
We think we do.
Well, I don't want to jerk the rug out from underneath them when really and truly I think they've paid the dues of volunteer all these years or ever how long, and then all of a sudden we're going to not do that and look outside.
Only on the 2 positions of captain and lieutenant are we going to take applications from the outside.
Okay, I want to suspend the rules, and I want to hear that from Mr. Farley.
Objection to suspending the rules, and let Mr. Farley speak to this. Okay. We need a vote on this, a 2/3 vote to suspend the rules. Do I have a second first, if we're going, whoever that was? And, all right, all of you in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Mr. Larry Farley, Chief Farley, address the questions that Mr. Sandlin has asked.
Larry, if you'll address that and also address that part that Commissioner Young had mentioned as well, too, if you don't mind.
Well, when we wrote the grant, actually when the county commission passed a resolution to create the county fire department, that made the whole county my fire district, my responsibility. We have contracted with volunteers to cover their certain areas. In talking with the FEMA people, matter of fact, the head lady over the grant writing process, we were informed that we could include their numbers because ultimately we're responsible for that area. In other words, there's places in the daytimes where the volunteers are at work and they can't respond. Some of the areas that some of the commissioners have mentioned are very limited in daytime because they're out working and making a living. So, we have to cover that. That's my responsibility to see that that is covered. So the grant was written correctly. We have got confirmation on that because when y'all passed the county resolution saying that we were creating a county fire department, that give Lascassas, Kittrell, Christiana, Walter Hill, Allenville, all of them, that's my area I have to cover. We contracted that with volunteers, and because that is our primary response area, if they don't respond, we have to. So that part is is good to go on that part. As far as the volunteers being certified, when we started this department, I brought in the Tennessee Commission on Firefighting, and we given every opportunity to all the volunteers across the county to test and take written examinations that they may be qualified by the state of Tennessee as a certified firefighter. I have pushed this in my department, and we've offered it throughout the county. As far as the job descriptions, these job descriptions are written very closely to what Murfreesboro requires. We're going to require firefighter 1. We're going to require hazmat and operations. We're going to require medical for first response. So the criteria is set, just like what Murfreesboro hires when they bring people on, and other departments. We've set a standard, and we plan on opening it up and hiring the most qualified people that we can hire. And every one of them will have to have certifications, or they won't be hired.
Okay, so maybe those 3 positions then, we may not have the certifications or criteria that we need within our volunteer fire department.
I think we do.
To cover those.
I think we do.
Okay, so then all 12 of those may be filled within our volunteer fire departments that we have right now in hand.
Talking about in the county?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was saying. Now, we were talking about there may not be, and we're going to look outside of that realm. I didn't want to pull the rug out from under our volunteer firefighters that have worked hard and trained and certified and gone as far as they can go maybe or whatever, and not be given this opportunity.
Well, since I started this county department, Assistant Chief Roger Toombs, the Murfreesboro Fire Department, says he loves my department because we require what they require. And since I've been chief of this department, I'd say probably about 30 people from my department has come through my department, trained, got certified, and now works for Murfreesboro Fire Department. And they've been hired by Smyrna, they've been hired by Brentwood. So I think we're doing a very good job of requiring certifications and setting a standard that these other fire departments respond to and are hiring our people. You know, these volunteers are not going to hurt, these paid people are not going to hurt the volunteer firemen. They're there to complement them. They're there to help them during the daytime when they can't cover their territory. They're going to be set up to where they can go out and train these other departments. We just got through putting on an extrication class and taught the whole Department of Fossville and Christiana. So now they're certified in extrication. And they've expressed a desire to come in and help us man our trucks and run those rescue trucks. We cover all the interstates, except of a small section in the city. We cover all the way to Coffee County. We cover all the way to, actually cover the interstate that goes through Smyrna. We cover all the way up to Laverne. Everybody sitting in this room right here travels the interstates. If you have a wreck and you're involved in an automobile accident, we'll be the ones to come cut you out. Heaven forbid, the only paid people we have is SORT. Heaven forbid they be a wreck out in Walter Hill area, and one of these people out here have a wreck on the interstate, and they're on the other side of the county, and our rescue trucks are not manned because they're manned by volunteers. That's a travesty. That's something I want to prevent from happening because it could very well be my family.
Well, to sum mine up, it's a win-win. Okay, I'm all in. I'm all for it. I just heard something there that didn't really set too well with me. We're going to look within first, basically within our volunteer fire department first. And if they're not there, then we're going to look outside, which is still Rutherford County first, and then outside beyond that. That's all I'm asking, and I think that's fair.
We're hiring 12 firefighters, and I can promise you, in my department alone, I've got 12 that qualify for these positions. And there's certified firefighters at Allenville, there's certified firefighters at Las Casas, there's certified firefighters at Kittrell.
Promised you I was going to be nice, and I'm not going to beat up on you. How many in your department have their fire apparatus operator certification that are not on a professional department elsewhere? If they don't have it, they don't meet the qualifications to drive the fire truck, in my eyes. If they pull the wrong lever, they can cost the county $30,000 like that and messing that pump up.
Well, I mean,
and I don't think any of them do.
Well, that goes to volunteers too. All the volunteers out there. A lot of times the volunteers are saying, "Hey,
I
can
know
you drive a
several
truck?"
folks that have
They're
them.
giving license and they're turning loose.
I know several folks
All
in
right,
Amaville,
let's ask a question.
Francis, Walter Hill that have those certifications. That's my argument.
What's your
point.
question, Commissioner?
I
Okay.
asked you how many people had the fire apparatus operator certification.
Probably 2 or 3.
How many people that are not paid professionals elsewhere that volunteer have fire officer, which is the benchmark to be an officer?
Offhand, I probably don't. Well, I don't know that question. I don't know the answer to the question. Probably 1 or 2.
That's my argument about opening it up. I want to be fair. I don't think there's the qualifications for the higher positions. For the basic firefighters, I agree with the chief. I don't want to cut Amaville short if they've got more qualified people than here. They're volunteers in this county just like those folks are. If they're more qualified than the folks that volunteer for the county and they live off 1 Mile Lane and that's just where they volunteer, they should have the same right to that job as these folks. That's my argument. It's not. I'm looking at in county, not the county fire department. There's 2 distinct things we're saying here. I want to clarify myself. If they're in this county,
okay.
But we don't have anybody with fire officer certification over here.
Well, you know, we're a new department, and
I realize that.
when we hire within in the county, you know, they'll have so long to get that.
If I can hire a new guy to no, that's not right. You're putting a company officer on a piece of equipment that lives are at stake. They should have that training from day one.
We have an in-house pump class that we teach our operators.
Doesn't meet the state certifications.
Well, you know, Murfreesboro just hired 2 people that didn't even have no
And
certifications at all.
they were called the trainee
Okay.
division.
Let's ask a
I mean,
question.
how many fire trucks have we wrecked in 4 years?
Let's just ask a question and give an answer, and then if, we can't have a
we
back
can
and
open
forth
the floor for
discourse.
debate.
All right. We have Mr. Farley up here. Mr. Farley, do you want to ask Mr. Farley anything?
I just want to make a general statement. From the way I understood the questions and answers a while ago, from what the mayor said, what Commissioner Sandlin said, and what the chief here said, they're going to do exactly what you were talking about.
He said hire within the county. Talking about in the whole county of Rutherford, right?
All the
I just wanted to
volunteers.
make it clear and get you where you'd understand that it is the whole county he's talking about, and that's what everybody's.
I said the volunteer fire departments in the Rutherford County. So in the county, any volunteer fire department. No, I didn't.
Well,
Okay. Let's be respectful and be sure we're clear on communication here, okay? Mr. Farley, from what pool of applicants are we going to hire firefighters?
Up to everybody in Rutherford County.
All the volunteers in Rutherford County have an opportunity.
We're going to hire. What I've got set up is a point system, and I've actually it would be me and Assistant Chief Honeycutt, who spent 34 years in the fire service over you. Also, I've asked Commissioner Jeff Phillips. Pardon?
Excuse me. Stay on point, Mr. Farley.
I've asked Commissioner Jeff Phillips, who's on the Public Safety Committee, who has a background in HR, to assist us in these interviews. He has accepted. So it will be Commissioner Phillips, it will be me and Assistant Chief Honeycutt who will be conducting these interviews. It's going to be on a point system. They're going to get so many points for being firefighter 1. They're going to get so many points for having extrication. They'll have so many points for being medical EMR or EMT. They'll get so many points for college. They'll get so many points for a master's degree. So we're going to hire on the point system. And they'll be based on their certifications, how many points they get on the certifications, that's how we're going to hire.
Yeah, I'm with you. Then the officer positions are going to be opened up to the outside.
Well, Mr. Farley.
We're on the same page. I rest my case.
Okay, you rest your case. Any other discussion? Mr. Farley. Mr. Jordan, please.
Well, I got 2 Farleys, don't have another. I hope we hire every one of these people from within the county, the volunteer. Can we legally do that? Can we say with federal grant money, we're not even going to allow somebody from county to apply? That's discrimination, is it not? Well, I hope we do exactly what you guys said, but I don't know if we can make sure they have to live here, but if somebody offers to live here, we've got to at least interview those people. I'd ask the attorney to make sure we don't do something illegal, because you can't write a description that excludes people who are willing to move to this county. I hope every one of them is from the volunteers within the county at this time. I just want to make sure we do it all legally, because it sounds to me like we're kind of discriminating if we're not careful right there.
Mr. Schaefer?
Follow up on, it's not my real question, but what Mr. Jordan said. I know at one time the federal government on hiring for general jobs through the FSEE would give 5 preference points to military veterans, and they'd give 10 for a veteran that was disabled. So, you know, right there they were discriminating against the rest of the people that weren't. But here nor there, it's not what's concerning me. I wish Chief Farley would talk about ISO ratings and what this can do for people in that live in the unincorporated county. I used to, before what Mr. Todd was talking about earlier happened and got annexed, but you know, if I lived in a county right now with the chances of a fire in a day, I'll tell you what, I'd bless that house every day when I left it to go to work. And I'll tell you, if I could save a few $100s a year over what they're paying now for insurance on those houses, it's going to be worth a lot more than any fire tax that we have to put on them, I think.
Any other questions of Mr. Farley?
Well, basically, after I got the grant, we got acceptance of the grant. I was notified also by the federal government that if during this process, if we hire a qualified candidate with all his qualifications and he is a military veteran, I can get him paid for 3 years. So that's an option there. Now, when you talk about ISO, when we took over the county, we dropped our ISO in that area from 7-8 to a class 5 in some areas. Our whole district is a class 5 now. That's if you're within 5 miles of the station, 1,000 foot of a hydrant. We've gone about as low as we can go without paid personnel, because as Commissioner P pointed out in public safety and budget, I think it takes about 12 volunteers to equal 1 paid firefighter. Is that what you said? 4? So it takes a lot, and give you an example. In a rural area, a lot of times you don't have a hydrant. You have to do a shuttle operation. So if you got 20 people on a fire, half of them is going to be involved in shuttling water back and forth to that scene. So these paid people will help us be a step forward in the process of continuing to lower our ISO ratings. We have areas in the county that are class 10. That means they've got no protection because they're outside of the 5 miles of a fire station. Some of these houses are $500,000 and $600,000 homes. Their insurance has gone up from $1,200 a year to $3,500 a year. If you don't believe me, ask anybody in the Royal Glen subdivision, because they call our office every day complaining about it.
All right, any other questions or discussion? Mr. Black?
We'll hire 12 firefighters. What about if somebody gets sick, calls in? Are we going to have some part-time, or how are we going to, vacation? Are we going to offer vacation?
What I was going to do is draw from our volunteer pool, and that would be the criteria for them for their future jobs. You're going to let our guys, if they got going to take a vacation there, calling sick, you offer to one of the volunteers to cover that truck, and that scores him more points. And if we start hiring more firefighters, then that'll be more points for him to get hired when we do hire more firefighters.
Be covered by our insurance and all. No.
We've got disability insurance on our firefighters.
They'll be covered just like all of the other county employees. All the benefits will be available.
Receiving no compensation for their volunteers.
If I have to, I'll ride the truck. I'm salary. If I have to, I'll ride the truck. I'm salary.
How about Mr. Honeycutt? Will he get on it? Where's he at?
Pardon?
Yeah.
Mr. Honeycutt.
Oh, okay.
He's a volunteer. He doesn't receive compensation.
All right.
Commissioner Black, one thing that this would do is it would guarantee a response in the Las Casas area in the daytime, and they're shorthanded. It's nothing against Las Casas. I come from there. It's a great department. But they're shorthanded sometimes in the daytime. That would be a guaranteed response. If your house or anybody in that area is under fire or whatever, we're coming. I mean, there's a full man truck coming. Also, it gives us the opportunity, having people on shift, to train these other volunteers, put on classes at night, whether it be at our location or come to the location. Well, like I said, these 12 firefighters are being put in place to complement the volunteers, because in my career that's left in this county, be 10 years or whatever, I don't see us going away from the volunteer system for the next 10, 15 years. Now, we're already at 290,000. We started at 265, 262 in 2010. I promise you, by the time this grant comes to time to decide whether to fund it or get rid of it, you're going to be wanting to hire 12 more because we'll be close to 400,000 people in this county. You've heard people talking about the schools, people moving here, more people coming to schools, more people, more industries. There's companies opening up every day in Rutherford County and Swan and some other people. So we're not slowing down any. Growth is going to continue. We need to offer them education. We need to build these schools. But we've also got to provide public safety.
Okay, Mr. Farley.
Call for the question.
Oh, wait a minute. Mr. Stevens called for a question. Do we have a second? Mr. Turner and others. All in favor of calling for the question, please say aye. Are there any opposed to that? All right. The motion passed. 2/3 did vote yes. So we're through with Mr. Farley. Chief Farley. All right. The question's been called for. It's time for us to vote. And please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
17 yes, 3 no. Motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. Continue now, Mrs. Ely, please.
Item L2C, approval of funding for Eagleville School Phase 1. Whereas there is a need to renovate and expand Eagleville School due to growth in that area, and whereas the Rutherford County Board of Education has previously designed the renovation and expansion known as Phase 1, which includes 30,300 square feet and has 9 regular classrooms, 2 science labs, a band rehearsal room, a choir rehearsal room, boys and girls restrooms, offices, stage dressing rooms, dining expansion, a bank and bookstore, and serving line renovation. And whereas the Rutherford County Board of Education desires to proceed with the Eagleville School Phase 1 renovation and expansion at an estimated cost of $6,800,000. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that funding in an estimated amount of $6,800,000 be authorized from a future bond issue for the constructing, equipping, architect fees, and other costs for the Eagleville School Phase 1 renovation and expansion. Resolved this 13th day of March 2014. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Oh, Commissioner Phillips, Jordan and Serino and others. All right, we have a motion and several seconds. Discussion, Commissioner Phillips.
Wanted to make sure that you heard me. Thank goodness we're not hiring anybody with this one. But we are about to vote on something really important to our community. The Rockville and Eagleville area is growing immensely, and this is really important that we go ahead and get this renovation in to ward off some of that growth. So this is a very needed project in that area, and I would just ask for your support. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Schaefer?
Just a quick standard question, and I guess it could go to you, it could go to our finance director, but is this $6.8 million going to affect any kind of increase in finances that we will need that we can't handle right now?
I think we'll be fine. I don't think we'll be asking for an increase in debts in the debt service fund.
Any other questions or discussion? There being none, please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much, all of you citizens from Eagleville. We're happy for you, and we look forward to continuing this journey. All right, Ms. Ely, let's continue on.
Item L2D, a request from American Gold Star Mothers and a resolution to support the efforts of the Tennessee General Assembly to honor our fallen heroes and their families by naming State Route 1 the Gold Star Families Memorial Highway. Whereas since the birth of our great nation, hundreds of thousands of brave American men and women have served their country in the United States Armed Forces. And whereas many of these courageous men and women have lost their lives defending the most inviolate principles of human freedom and democracy. And whereas it is most appropriate that we should honor the families of those brave sons and daughters who have made the ultimate sacrifice to preserve the blessed freedoms we enjoy today. And whereas American Gold Star Mothers is an organization whose sole mission is to honor their family members who have lost their lives in service to our country since 1928. And whereas Rutherford County supports the efforts of the Tennessee General Assembly to honor our fallen heroes and their families by naming State Route 1 the Gold Star Families Memorial Highway, in memory of those who gave their lives so that we might enjoy the many bounties of democracy and the American way of life. And whereas Rutherford County desires to join the efforts of the General Assembly by expressing its willingness to provide and erect suitable signs to so designate the portion of State Route 1 that runs through Rutherford County. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that Rutherford County strongly supports the efforts of the Tennessee General Assembly to honor our fallen heroes and their families by naming State Route 1 the Gold Star Families Memorial Highway. And in support of that effort, Rutherford County hereby expresses its willingness, as funds are available, to provide and erect 2 appropriate signs on State Route 1, with such signs to be placed where State Route 1 enters Rutherford County. Resolved this 13th day of March 2014. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Commissioner Schaefer and Commissioner P. Any questions on this?
I'm not familiar with it. Where is it located?
I have been told that part of it is U.S. Highway 7 and part of it's U.S. Highway 41, depending on where you are coming into and leaving the county. I mean, yeah. So this has to go through the legislature yet, but they're trying to get resolution from 23 counties, I think, which this U.S. whatever it is, State Route 1 goes through. Okay. Any other discussion? From Memphis to Bristol, Ms. Ely has looked this up.
Memphis to Bristol.
All right, this is a nominal $325, but in any event, all of you in favor of this, just say aye, please. All right, any opposed? Thank you.
Item L2E, an amendment to grant contract with the Tennessee Department of Human Services for child support services. Whereas Rutherford County previously entered into a contract with the Tennessee Department of Human Services in May 2013 to fund child support enforcement pursuant to Title 4D of the Social Security Act. And whereas the state of Tennessee has offered an amendment to the original contract to extend the grant for 1 year beginning July 1, 2014, ending June 30, 2015. And whereas the amendment will require additional liability to the state of $28,329 and additional local matching funds of $14,593. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and all other appropriate officials of Rutherford County, Tennessee, be and are hereby authorized to execute for and on behalf of Rutherford County the amendment to the contract, a copy of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim, to extend the contract for an additional year to June 30, 2015, and increasing the liability to the state of Tennessee by $28,329 and requiring additional local matching funds of $14,593. resolved this 13th day of March 2014. Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
We need a second. Commissioner Sereno, and any questions on this? Okay, this just pays for part of a salary, 2/3 of it, thereabouts, of a employee we have in the juvenile child enforcement. It's part of the referee's cost. Okay. All right. Please cast your votes.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the votes.
20 yes, motion passes.
Item L2F, presentation of Debt Service Fund Cash Flow 3-Star Program. This is a presentation that is required of the governing body to present to you as a requirement of the 3-Star Program. And as you will see, as shown on this report, there is sufficient cash to cover our debt service payments. And Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the Debt Service Fund cash flow.
Okay, do I have a second? Commissioner Schaefer, this is just a requirement. We have to have the commission approve this Debt Service Fund cash flow so we could be eligible to participate in the 3-Star program. Any more questions on that? All right, all of you in favor of that, then please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, our next item on the agenda. There is not a report tonight from the Health and Education Committee. We do have one resolution from the Property Management Committee. Commissioner McAdoo.
Resolution. Whereas the attached agreement for architectural and engineering services to develop the construction plan for the judicial building between the Public Building Authority of Rutherford County, Tennessee and Rutherford County, Tennessee provides for the design services for the new judicial building and any associated structures and improvements to meet the needs of citizens of the county. And whereas it is in the best interest of the citizens of Rutherford County for the county to execute said agreement with the Public Building Authority. Now therefore be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and other appropriate officials be and they hereby are authorized to enter into and execute for and on behalf of Rutherford County, Tennessee, the agreement with the Public Building Authority. A copy of the same being attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim. Resolved this 13th day of March 2014 and now so moved.
All right. Need a motion to a second. Commissioner Farley. Does anyone have any questions on this? Commissioner Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a question to make sure I was clear on this. On the exhibit that was mentioned in the resolution on page, I think it's on page 1 for Exhibit A. It meant there's a blank space there that says, and I'll read it real quick, the county and the authority have authorized the execution of this agreement for the construction of the project, and the county has authorized the payment of the cost of the completion of the project not to exceed to be determined dollar amount for the construction of the project, including architects, engineers, and other professional fees, legal fees, and construction costs. Am I to understand that, Mr. Chairman, to say that there is a limit we can put on what we want to spend for the building, or am I misunderstanding that?
Part that you're reading from is an exhibit.
Okay.
That's Exhibit A. That part of the agreement is just something that's in basic substance what we will approve later. Once we get the design done and get the bids in, we'll know how to fill that in.
But we'll be, that's kind of my point too, that we'll be able to determine that down the road and say we only
determine that before we move forward. And that part of, that's just exhibit. We will not execute that little document back there. We're only executing the main body of the agreement.
Okay, that's good. Thanks for, that's what I wanted to make sure is there is kind of a safeguard in there. If we can't go over a certain amount, we can put that in there and say we're only going to spend this.
We cannot agree for the PBA to oversee the construction until we appropriate the money for the construction. We'll have to execute that piece of agreement later, maybe a couple of years from now.
That's good. Thank you. Appreciate the clarification.
Any other questions? Mr. Sandlin.
We've already done a $5 million tag to this as far as design and all that, so this is just
Yes, sir.
moving along.
This is just officially putting in place the agreement with the PBA.
Basically, like the mayor said, this is an agreement with the PBA. The way we're set up in Rutherford County, if we do any building projects like this, we are in partnership with the PBA to oversee that project. And what we did, we met and we came up with our outline of who we think should be on the committees and all. And this was sent to the PBA for their approval.
PBA they have agreed to this arrangement that we have
That's all.
outlined here.
It's really basically an agreement between PBA and the Rutherford County Commission.
All right, any other discussion or questions? All of you in favor of executing this agreement then with the PBA, please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, thank you, Mr. McAdoo. That was unanimous. Good job. Public Safety Committee, Commissioner Farley, resolution to approve the concept and support the Yellow Dot program.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whereas Tennessee Code Annotated Title 55, Chapter 20 provides for the development and implementation of Yellow Dot Motor Vehicle Medical Information Program to assist drivers and passengers who participate in the program and emergency medical responders in reporting critical medical information in the event of a motor vehicle accident or a medical emergency involving a participant's vehicle. Now therefore be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the Rutherford County approve the concept of the Yellow Dot program and supports the implementation of the state, in the same in Rutherford County, resolved this 13th day of March 2014, and I so move, Mr. Chairman.
All right, second, Commissioner Turner, and I think Schaefer, et cetera. Any questions on this? All of you in favor of this, please then say aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Public Works and Planning Committee, we have two resolutions there, and we'll call on Commissioner Jernigan.
Whereas Rutherford County is under a state mandate to reduce solid waste going to a Class 1 landfill by 25% or face financial penalties. And whereas, while being the host county for the landfill has meant saving enormous amounts of money by not having to pay for residential and school trash disposal, it may also have made us careless of what we throw away. And whereas all county offices have been asked and encouraged to recycle wherever possible, now therefore be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that it endorse the concept of recycling in the school system and encourage the Rutherford County Board of Education to do so. Resolve this 13th day of March 2014. I so move.
Second, Mr. Turner. Anyone have any questions? All right, all of you in favor of this then, please say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Second resolution is authorizing submission of an application for litter and trash collection grant on county roads from the Tennessee Department of Transportation and authorizing the acceptance of said grant. Whereas Rutherford County intends to apply for the Affordable Nation Grant from the Tennessee Department of Transportation to be executed July 1, 2014 to June 30, 2015. Whereas the contract for the grant will impose certain legal obligations upon Rutherford County. Now, therefore be it resolved that the county mayor of Rutherford County is authorized to apply on behalf of Rutherford County for a litter and trash collection grant for county roads from the Tennessee Department of Transportation, and that should said application be approved by the Tennessee Department of Transportation, the county mayor is hereby authorized to execute contracts or other necessary documents which may be required to significantly accept of the litter and trash collection grant by Rutherford County. Resolve this 13th day of March 2014. I so move.
And a second, Commissioner Cook. Any discussion or questions? All of you in favor of this, then please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. There's not a report from the steering committee. Is there any other business? Excuse me, Mr. P. Mr. Coggan had risen a bit before you. Commissioner Coggan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a point of clarification on the school board vacancy. Ms. Blankenship's term is to expire August 2016. However, the appointment that we will be approving next month in April will only be to fulfill the term until August of 2014, in which there'll be a special election held to fulfill the remainder of her term. It's important also for anyone wishing to apply to realize the steering committee will review those applications on April the 7th at 5:30. Also, another point for anybody interested in applying or running for the August election, the filing deadline is April 3rd. So you take that to the Election Commission.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Coggan. Commissioner P.
This Saturday, March 15th, there will be a ham breakfast at Kittrell Volunteer Fire Department. I want to invite everybody out. There'll be plenty of politicians there, so if you don't like ham, I bet there's some bologna floating around. So we'll see y'all there.
Commissioner Young was Sandlin, and then Commissioner Young.
Mayor, I was just wondering if we had any feedback yet on our D&J building as far as any testing or anything yet, or is that too premature yet?
We don't have a report back from the we are into the phase 2 portion of this, and there have been some investigations and some borings done, but we do not have the report back from that activity yet. Commissioner Young.
Chairman, I want to bring up a point to the entire committee, and I'm not going to make a motion or anything like that. I respect the committee process, but this is big enough that the entire commission needs to know that it's a goal of mine. It was one of the goals in my 4 years I wanted to see done was us consolidate our 911. Right now, we have 2 dispatch centers for the county government. That's ineffective, it's unsafe, it's inefficient, any way you look at it. We need to consolidate the ambulance services dispatch under the sheriff's department. We voted and we got all those new consoles. We did that. Right now, calls have to be transferred from one location to the other. Calls can get dropped. If the call gets dropped, people can die. And they have, because people haven't been dispatched correctly. I asked the mayor and I asked the sheriff at the last public safety meeting. I asked the sheriff point blank, I want to know in your budget this year what it would cost to absorb Rutherford County EMS's dispatch into his budget, and those positions fall under him. Something we need to do, if you ask the consultants, and we contacted CTAS, they would say that. Actually, CTAS would tell us to consolidate Smyrna, Laverne, Murfreesboro. We can't control the cities. We can control Rutherford County. And for us to have 2 is not right. And I'm working through this to get this through the committee process. I just wanted to make sure that every commissioner knows what I want to see done and what I'm trying. Whether it's what we do or not, this is something I'm passionate about. But I wanted to address that to the full commission, and this was the time to do so. Thank you.
Any other business anyone wishes to bring up? Our finance director, Ms. Nolan, would like to say some things to you.
The first, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Mark Tucker, sitting to my left. What is my left? He is the Deputy Finance Director, and he will be here next month in my place. Next month, you'll be approving some resolutions on borrowing money, and Ms. Ely has got something that she's going to pass out to you, just kind of give you a heads up, or some of the things that you've approved that we will be borrowing for. So you'll have that. I wanted to give it to you tonight for your reading pleasure. If you have any questions, we'll be discussing this in budget next month.
All right, thank you, Ms. Nolan. Anyone else have anything they'd like to discuss or announce? If there's no other business, then we are adjourned. Thank you very much.